time for Mac Geek Gab, and listener Jamie brings us our quick tip of the week by sharing that we can name or rename group chats in the Messages app. On the iPhone, you tap the top of the group chat, you'll see a contact card for the group where you can change the name. You can even assign it a picture. You can assign it a custom logo or one of Apple's defaults. You can also do this on the Mac or the iPad. These changes flow through and are seen by all members of the group. So it becomes kind of a thing where you can create one for work, or you can create one for, your family and different groups of your family and all those things. More quick tips like this, plus your questions answered today on Mac Geek Gab 1017 for Monday, January 8th, 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where you send in tips like that, and you send in cool stuff found, you send in your questions, we try to answer your questions, we share your cool stuff found and your tips, we share some questions and cool stuff found of our own, we mix it all together into an agenda so that each of us has a fantastic opportunity to learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. This is CES week, which means our sponsors for this week are our CES 2024 coverage and travel sponsors. That includes Kolide at kolide.com/MGG, MacUpdater at corecode.io/MGG, and carboncopycloner.com/MGG, where you can go and get 15% off CCC with code MGGCES24. We will spend a minute for each of them a little bit later in the show, talking a little bit more in depth to thank them for their sponsorship of the episode and CES and all that good stuff. For now, before jetting off to Las Vegas in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
In South Dakota, I'm Adam Christianson.
And also in New Hampshire, it's Pilot Pete, where it may be cold, but at least it's windy. Greetings, gents.
Yeah, it's cold, it's windy, and we are recording this as usual on Friday before, so we're on it's the 5th for us, and Pete and I are hoping that the snow that's due to hit New England hits just after we leave the ground tomorrow evening. So
exactly. I hope the same for you guys.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No, it's and the only other easy alternative is a flight at like 7:30 a.m., which means leaving the house at 1 a.m. Pacific time, because I will be going to sleep on Pacific time on Saturday night, right? So I always think of it that way. And that's actually one of my little travel hacks is the day I am leaving, I wake up and think of myself on the time that I will end the day at. And I do the same coming home. If like on Thursday when we fly back from CES, Pete, I think of that as waking up on Eastern time that day. And I find it helps frame my brain a little better. I don't know.
Probably shifts you a little bit better.
A little bit. Yeah. It's just like, okay, well, it's much better to say that I have a 10 a.m. Eastern flight leaving the West Coast than a 7 a.m. Pacific flight, you see. Because I would happily take a 10 a.m. Eastern flight tomorrow morning, but taking a 7 a.m., it just makes for, I've just found that starting a trade show by waking up in the middle of the night to catch a flight always kind of hurts me.
It'll make for a long week. Yeah.
It makes for a long week. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
I think the timing will work out well on this one. I have lost a few races against nor'easters trying to get to work over the years. And the worst one was April Fool's Day of 96. I spent 30 hours in the ramp office at work. Trapped.
Yeah.
Every plan I came up with fell through. And I wound up starting my trip 2 days late. Fortunately, they had me cold, dead to rights on that one. And they were like, yeah, get out there to Anchorage, catch your trip, and you can finish it. So,
yep.
Whereas they could have pulled me off without pay. They didn't.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. You had to.
But they didn't have to burn a 10-day reserve when they did that. So I was able to go and fly my trip, which was good. Right. But then Continental Airlines, lost my luggage. So I was running around Asia for 4 days buying skivvies at every stop.
Good. Yeah. There was no way that Continental was going to get you your luggage after you had flown another plane out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
And no air tags in those days to know where your luggage was.
No, not even close.
Like I know when I share quick tips that it's new to someone. This is one of these that I feel like every travel would be evident to many travelers. But if you haven't put an air tag in your luggage, I put air tags in everything. I put it even in my carry-on bag. Like, why not?
Absolutely.
But certainly in your checked luggage, there are just countless stories that you can read all over the internet, and I can share too. Like when my daughter flew back from Canada a year and a half ago, she was pretty convinced that, like, there was a quick connection or something in Montreal that she had to do, and she was pretty sure her luggage wouldn't make it. And so she goes to get in line, to like register a claim so that they can drive the luggage to our house the next day or that night, whenever it finally arrives. And they were like, well, you have to wait until all the bags are on the carousel before you can file a claim. And I said to her, I'm like, it's like, show them your AirTag thing. And so she did. And they're like, oh, you have a tracker in there? And it's like, yeah. And they were like, great, we can start your claim now. And by the time we had finished filling out her claim and the luggage had finished coming off the rack, there was a line of 25 people at the gate. So it did save us quite a bit because we were able to just, well, screw it, get in the car, go home, wait for them to show up with the luggage.
Right.
So, yeah, it's handy to know. It's handy to know. So, Ben has a quick tip that is bizarre in Sonoma to help with Time Machine not backing up. Ben says, I use TimeMachineEditor to control the frequency of my Time Machine backups on my Mac. So that's a cool stuff found that we've mentioned on the show many times. Upon upgrading to Sonoma, I was finding that the backups would not automatically run some of the time, especially if I was away from my Mac and the screen was asleep. I found my way to an article on Mac Observer that explains some things that can be done to fix this. And we'll link to this TMO article here. I assume they still call it TMO. It's weird for me reading the Mac Observer and not recognizing the name of an author, let alone the article.
Wait, I didn't write that.
Published. I mean, it's obviously it's been written in the last 2 years, so I had nothing to do with it, but it's still weird for those of you who are wondering. But one of the bits of advice in this article, which worked for Ben, was excluding FindMy data. And there's, the article articulates which files to put in the Time Machine exclusion. And that did it. What a weird thing and it must be that this file remains open by some agent on the system. I mean, Adam, do you have any speculation as to why Time Machine would bork?
No, but I mean, that's really interesting. I know one thing that I've always done with my Time Machines is I always just exclude all of my system files.
Huh. Yeah. That's
because I know I have other backups of those. And plus, if I'm that borked, I'm going to be reinstalling the operating system anyway. So all that stuff's going to come back, standard system files. And I'm assuming that's where those are. I didn't look at this to see exactly where those are, but
I believe so.
As a rule, because I have CCC or I have other bootable backups, that are going to have all my system files. So I just figure I don't need them in Time Machine. So
yeah, these are the exclusion is it's actually in your home library containers, and then there is a com.apple.findmy folder. So those are the things. If I exclude
I'd have to go look at my Time Machine settings, but I might exclude my home library folder too. Anything system low level related, I think I tend to just have always excluded. So I've never run into issues. But that's really interesting. Yeah, is it the kind of thing where I think your theory makes sense, in my opinion, is if it's got something open at that time, maybe that's blocking the scheduled thing from running. But that would seem weird a little bit. Like
it seems weird.
It'd be intentional. It wouldn't be intentional, I don't think.
Yeah. I would be just to revisit your blocking of the home library folder. I certainly do that if you like, folks, but take a look in there and understand what you're excluding, because I'm pretty sure Apple Mail still stores your mail data, not just its preferences, in the home library folder. It does. And I think by default, like things like Thunderbird and even Safari have there's a lot of your user preferences and even data, like your mail data, is stored in there. So just take a look and make sure you know what you're excluding, and then by all means,
I don't do I don't do home library stuff. I do just system
library. Yeah, for sure. But, yes, that I'll buy.
Time Machine might not even. I'm trying to remember if Time Machine by default backs up the core system stuff. But yeah, you can go in there selectively exclude. There might be things in there you want to selectively exclude, but yeah, I would not the whole library folder.
Yeah.
Or the whole, or definitely not your home folder.
And not That's you kind of want to lean in on that. That's right. Yeah. Our next quick tip comes from Jim, who says, when opening a Safari or PDF expert document window, the tabs from the last time I had the app open would load. Not what I want. Internet searching yielded nothing, but poking around in system settings did. Under system settings, desktop and dock, Windows, I was able to check the box, close Windows when quitting an application, and that fixed it. I have no idea how this setting was the opposite. I think the opposite is the default of this. Yeah, so that when you open a window, everything just comes back. I kind of like it, but again, personal preference. It's just my workflow. I trust that it's going to be there, and I'm actually kind of, thrown off when it's like, wait, that app didn't return to its previous state. Oh no, what did I have open? So
it's funny. I'm the exact opposite. When they added this feature years and years and years ago, I mean, it's been that way for
for a while.
How long?
Yeah,
I immediately flipped it around because that's what I was used to. That's how my Mac worked, and now you've changed it. And I'm also I like a fresh start when I open an app. I don't want the thing I was working on. I closed that window or I quit the app. I'm expecting it to come up.
Yes,
fresh, clean desktop for me to start working in whatever app, Photoshop or my code editor or whatever. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I remember the change because BB Edit had this functionality before Apple added it to the system. And so therefore that was the first app where I came to rely on it. It was like, this is great because I can quit BB Edit and relaunch it. And it's exactly as I left it. And that's what I want. If I have to reboot, there's always those times where it was like, well, I don't want to reboot because I don't want to lose like the state of things, and, so when it was an option to do that in other apps as provided by the system, I embraced it, but I already kind of had it in my workflow. So I totally get if you didn't have that in your workflow, why you would absolutely push it away.
And remember, you can one-off change this on a per app basis by using your option key when you're quitting. So do an option quit or option go to the menu and select quit, and it will toggle. So if you have it set to always keep windows open and just for that one time you want to make sure all the windows close, just hold down your option key.
Oh, and for you having this disabled or whatever, you have the opposite setting for me. The quit option with the option key, it toggles it back and forth between them.
Yeah, so if I hold down option, it'll say quit and keep windows. Whereas I think if you have it the other way, it'll say quit and close all windows or something.
That's exactly what it says. You are correct. Yes. Yeah. See the bonus little tip. This is why we do this show. Yeah. I had no idea. That's great. Because there are times when I want that fresh start. And yeah. All right. And I think now I'm out of bounds here, but I think if you launch an app with the Option key down, or there's some way to get it to not inherit its prior state. Is that the Shift key down? Someone at feedback@MacGeekGab.com will let us know. I know that I have recollections that there was a way to do this and just say, because when Apple introduced this feature, there were then the scenarios where somebody would be in Pages, it would crash. They would relaunch Pages, it would open the document that caused it to crash, and it would crash. And so there needed to be a way of saying, no, just open like you were doing it fresh. Right. And so I think that's there. I can't test that right now because I got this thing I'm doing. But
yep.
Yeah, but I think that's a thing. So hopefully somebody either in the Discord chat real time while we're doing the show, or certainly feedback@MacGeekGab.com. And that goes for anything. If you've got other quick tips or questions or cool stuff found, that's where you send them.
Feedback@MacGeekGab.com.
Yep. Feedback@MacGeekGab.com.
Scott says, I just created a Safari web app for ForeFlight, one of the apps you use in your plane, Pete. I watched you use it. Yeah.
That's a great.
It is a great app. I agree. Yeah. He says, unlike the rest of the apps residing in the dock, I couldn't just click and grab it to move. Oh, that's interesting. Instead, inspired by the dialogue in a recent episode about trying various modifier keys to see what they do, seems like this is a recurring theme. Yeah. I option clicked to grab and hold the app in the dock to move ForeFlight to a different spot. That's interesting because I have created many web apps and have had no trouble moving them. But if you create one and you have trouble moving it, that is it. Scott goes on to share, and I would agree that these web apps seem to just work. They start with the site as it was when I created it, and then allow me to navigate within the web as normal. He says, and what's great is when I click a link in it, it opens it in regular Safari, so it doesn't try to do things. I have found the same thing. This is one of those features that the new Safari web apps are save to dock or whatever the feature is. But it's in the file menu. You get to a website, in the file menu, you choose to add to dock, and then it will put it in the dock, and then you just use it as an app. It's great. I love it. I love it. Thank you for that, Scott. Nice tip. Yeah, I'm still curious as to why his wouldn't move, but
right. Yeah, that is odd.
I wonder. No, that wouldn't be it. I was thinking. So I'll share my thought process. Sorry. I wonder if Scott uses a non-admin account as his primary daily driver user.
Yeah, right.
And if that's a difference, I don't know. But if that were the case, the option, why I dismissed it before sharing it.
The option key would.
The option key doesn't just magically make you an admin.
You're an admin.
Yeah. You're an admin, and you're an admin. No, but I don't know. What were you going to say, Adam? You were
just something pithy. I was going to say, remember when Steve thought we only needed web apps
on the iPhone?
Yeah.
I said we've really come full circle. Here we are, happy about these stupid things. I like that.
No kidding.
Yeah, those are good times. Yeah. He was wrong on that.
He was wrong.
He was very wrong. But I don't.
A few times.
I don't think he believed that we didn't need web apps, because if he believed that, then there would have been no native apps on the phone. There would not have been Mail. There would not have been Safari. Right. I mean, I guess you would have to have Safari. But there were native apps on the phone. They just weren't open for third parties to make.
Correct.
And so I don't think he believed that we didn't need apps. I think he believed he didn't trust anybody else to write them responsibly.
Correct. Yeah. Which is why we have the App Store and all those other things that came afterwards,
The
right?
sandboxing.
That was the solution. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. And we're all better off for it. I mean, honestly, they pushed the engineering teams to figure out a way to make that stuff available. And there were a lot of bumps along the road. I think nobody will discount that. And there still are bumps.
Yeah. But there's plenty ahead, too. With it. I mean, isn't there a big lawsuit in Europe over third-party stores, like a third store?
Yep.
Yeah. Which then now the security issues all become back to the front.
Without, fair. Yeah.
Properly
without Apple gatekeeping and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We've been around long enough to remember the days when, you had all kinds of conflicts and crashing things and stuff like that. And, it still happens, but in this day and age, a lot less frequent, if you ask me, from what I remember.
I'll be curious to see, because this still happens on the Android side. Like if you sideload apps that are not, vetted and approved and policed by the Google Play Store, you can get yourself into a scenario where you're burning your battery, 3 times as fast as you normally would with responsible apps, and you can get things to crash just like I could on my Palm Trio, right? Like, sure. So I get where Steve's logic.
You could probably be sending your data all over the planet too, to everybody and anybody who wants it.
Fair, yeah.
So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The nice part is, even if Apple, and I think they will be, even if they're forced to open up the third-party apps to be installed outside of Apple's App Store, it doesn't force users to do that. It just allows users. It doesn't shut down the App Store, right? So I think the majority of people will simply keep doing what they're currently doing.
Yeah. I guess I would liken it to jailbreaking in the early days.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do it knowing the risks that you have.
That's
and some security barriers.
Apple's going to make you, just like they do on the Mac. You have to go into settings and tell it, no, I'm going to allow apps that don't come from the App Store. Right. We've all done that, I think. So we take it for granted that we've enabled that setting, but that's not the default. Like, you have to go and do that.
Very good point.
Yeah. So my guess is it'll be the same on the phone, and you'll choose whether or not you want to suffer the consequences. And then we'll get a whole lot more questions about it here on the show, and we'll have to do this for another 20 years. So
there you go.
Yep. It's not a bad thing. I kind of enjoy it.
I'll be here if you will.
Same. Yeah, exactly. I got nothing else to do. So, I mean, actually, that's not true. I have a million other things to do. This is one of my favorite things. So I'm going to keep doing this. One last quick tip comes from Ben, who reminds us that if you've scrolled up a ways in your photos library and want to jump back to the bottom, aka most recent photo, simply tap the word library. A good quick tip. I love all these quick tips. Send them in. Feedback at MacGeekGab.com. All right. As you know, this is CES week, and I want to take a second to thank each of our CES sponsors. Right now, I want to thank CCC Backup from Bombic. We've known this as Carbon Copy Cloner, and that's still what CCC stands for. But CCC is more than just a cloning tool. It's an advanced backup and file copying application for our Macs. If you're looking for something better than Time Machine, well, with just a few clicks, you can set up CCC to make hourly or daily backups of your Mac. It can build extensive file version history that you can use to restore older versions of files and files that you might have accidentally deleted. And CCC's read-only snapshots also give you excellent protection against malware and ransomware. CCC's backups are compatible with Migration Assistant too, so you can use them to migrate data to a new Mac. And beyond those backup basics, CCC offers extensive auditing and verification. Have you ever wondered what all of that disk activity was? Have some application run amok? Well, the list of files that change in each backup event give you unprecedented insight into what's changing on your Mac each day. You need to copy the entire content of one volume to another? Boom! CCC can do that in just a few clicks. And that's just a little peek at what CCC can do. You can go and download CCC today to start your 30-day free trial. And then go to carboncopycloner.com/MGG and use code MGGCES24. We'll put this in the show notes at Mac Geek Gab so you don't have to remember, but it's MGGCES24 to get 15% off. Amazing stuff. And our thanks to CCC and the folks at Bombic Software for sponsoring all our CES coverage this week. Want to take us to Rich there, Adam?
Yeah, Rich has a travel question, and he knows where to turn to. He says, I know Pilot Pete, you travel quite a bit. He He's hoping you can help him out. He says his daughter and him are going to be traveling a lot this year, and he wanted to get her one of those MagSafe chargers that are like the all-in-one, where you can charge your watch, your phone, your AirPods all in a single thing with one USB cable. Be great if it folded up, he says. And he was looking at Amazon, seeing brands like Mophie, Anker, websites. He didn't see anything with really great reviews. So he's looking for a recommendation. He says, should I do that? Or should I just get a set of extra cables, like traveling cables and chargers that she can keep separate from her home cables, so she always has them for traveling, and doesn't forget to pack them. So he wants to know, do you have some suggestions for him?
I don't know why he thinks I travel a lot. I haven't been anywhere this year. But it is only the 5th. So, yeah. Well, first of all, I have to have somewhat of an apology to everybody, because I had a cool stuff found several weeks back, an RTOPS Qi charger that folded, and I found it. I like it to charge the Apple Watch, and I like it to charge my AirPods, and I found it less than 100% reliable to charge my phone. I've put it on the charger, wake up in the morning, and it's MagSafe, so it's not like it's misaligned. And the phone is up, 3%. Went to bed with 44%, wake up, it's 47%. Going, really? Come on. No, I'm the host. Yeah. So that was a little frustrating. That was the RTOPS charger that I mentioned as a cool stuff found several weeks back. The quick answer to your question, Rich, is cables. You cannot go wrong with a second set of travel cables that is always in your backpack or your suitcase. I have that anyway. I just always do that because I don't ever want to get caught short. The once or twice I've been out on the road in my entire career without a charging cable for my phone, it just drives you nuts. Quick tip thrown in here in the answer to the question. Go to the front desk of the hotel and say, hey, do you have a spare iPhone cable? More often than not, they've got a drawer full of the damn things
that they've pulled out of rooms
over the years.
Yeah.
I left the charging cable here last week. Oh, here you go. That's it. Was it a white cable about 6 feet long? That's the one.
Right. I see. Yeah, I bet you could even ask for an Apple Watch charger and they would have one.
But I'm sure they would. There's no doubt in my mind anymore.
Yeah.
But, those things are so prolifically lost, and that the hotel is bound to have some. So
prolifically lost.
That's right.
I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but it's oh so right in my heart.
I communicated the point, whether or not it's grammatically correct. I communicated there. So, yeah, extra cables, always a good idea to have in your bag. And then I did do some looking around on Amazon again, and I agree. Every one of them has some negative reviews on it. I don't think you can sell 10,000 units and not have somebody cheesed at what you've sold them. But there's a Lysen, Lisen, 3-in-1 for Apple devices. And I meant to have that link up. Sorry, David. And then
I got it.
Oh, you've got it.
I got you. Yeah. Of course.
So it looks like it does the job, and it looks like it's priced right. Of course, it's not coming up right there.
No, Amazon. The internet's broken this morning here. So
sorry, didn't mean to break the internet.
It's okay.
It's normally $66 on sale right now as we record this for $40.
Plus a $10 coupon, Pete. So you get it for $30.
Yeah. Even down to 30. So it looks robust enough that it will probably work. Again, I hesitate to say cool stuff found now that I had
it happens.
RTOPS charger, and it just was frustrating that it wasn't. And Dave, we talked briefly in the pre-show about, well, was it the O Snap? But I have not had any issues with my O Snap on any other Qi charger.
Yep. Now, this one you found from Lysen, whatever it's called, looks interesting for a travel charger. And I always travel with something like this. I don't have this particular one. I have this Anker 3-in-1 cube that I sometimes will travel with that does the same kind of thing. It'll charge everything. But like you, man, I make sure that I have cables to charge everything. And some of that is just because it sucks at home when I know I'm going to spend my day on the other side of the driveway at my office. It sucks at home when I wake up and my phone hasn't charged. But it's certainly manageable because I can plug it in at my office. Waking up in a hotel, especially when I know that I'm either, going to go like next week, out all day with CES, or even, on vacation or whatever. Like we rely on our phones so much that I just can't bring myself to risk the waking up with an uncharged phone because it decided, I got too hot on the charger, so I'm just going to, chill out or whatever. It's the amount of convenience that I get for the 4 nights that I'm away with my MagSafe thing. Like I just plug it in and I'm fine. And the nice part is cables weigh a whole lot less than MagSafe travel chargers. I don't know. I always bring one of these things with me because I love the idea of it. Like, I can set up my hotel room and it's just like home and I can chill and all that. However, anytime I want to charge, I want it on a cable, either because of what I said, I want to wake up with it fully charged, or I know I've got 20 minutes while I'm in the room to chill before I got to head out for the evening's events. And I'm going to use a cable there too, because it's going to charge faster on a cable than it will. Yeah. Right. So
here's where you might be able to save some travel space. I'll add to this. You guys have probably seen these Anker Prime gallium nitride wall chargers. They have them up to like 67 watts. So I don't know what Mac he has or she has, but if you have one of the newer M series, MacBook Airs or something like that, you can get 67 watt charger, super tiny, folds up, has 3 ports, so you can charge anything on it from a single tiny charger, and then you could potentially swap that out for your big Mac wall charger. Because I don't know if you're like me, but like if I'm working during the day, I have my Mac plugged in, my devices are charged. I'm usually charging the devices at night and have the Mac shut down, right? So you can working on your Mac during the day, get 67 watts from a teeny tiny charger through your USB-C, and then at night, plug all 3 of your cables in for your iPhone, your Apple Watch, your AirPods, and charge those up overnight, all in the same little tiny wall charger. So you don't have to carry your big brick.
You don't need all the things. You can mix and match. Yep. Yeah.
And I actually, I probably now I need to make it a cool stuff found. I bought this at Best Buy. Last time I forgot my home charger before I started carrying 2 chargers on the road, and I have this brick that I bought at Best Buy, and it has a USB-C and 2 USB-A's, and I want to say it's like 85 watts, something like that, and that stays in my bag. That's my laptop charger on the road.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
And then I will say I do take an Anker. I don't travel as much as you guys, but I take one of this just the cheap Anker. It's not foldable, but it's a 3-in-1 that I have by my bedside. It's hard plastic, and it's at the iPhone thing's at a specific angle. Can't fold it flat. But what I do is when I pack, I have everything stacked up, and I have the space between, my pants and shorts and my t-shirts, and I just slide that in diagonally, and it sits flat right at the top of my bag. So it doesn't fold flat, but I just use the space around my clothes to make it flat, basically.
Yep. I like it.
And that thing always works. It's actually really good. And I think it's one of their cheaper chargers. I think you can probably get older versions for like $20-$30.
I like it.
I forget what it's called. It's like the Anker 3, and it's got a terrible name. Anker 3-in-1, whatever charger.
Yeah.
Stand for iPhone.
Sweet.
Well, and I've actually found it. Like I found one on Best Buy that it's actually now it's an Insignia 100-watt 4-port USB-C and USB-A. I'm trying to get it to the. Trying to share it. I'm trying to share it. Gosh.
Don't worry about it. We can share it later. We'll record the show now.
Notes. That's where I need to put it.
Put it in the show notes. That's right. At MacGeekGab.com. And and you can find this particular episode either at mgg.fm/1017 or in your email box if you go sign up for the mailing list, which is primarily used just to send you the show notes every week. So, fun. All right. What is next? You want to take us to Mark, Pete?
I do. But I got a vamp. Well, I find Mark because I was looking for the link instead of where I was supposed to be.
That's okay. We're playing with ChatGPT to make an image for what is obviously, at least at this moment in time, the running contender for show title, which is Prolifically Lost. So
yeah. So
yeah.
Good.
There we are, and I am prolifically lost at the moment, but I'm back.
It's a theme. It's a theme.
Oh man. So Mark writes in and says, Pobox is an email redirection service that I've been using for decades. I'd not heard of this, so there's a cool stuff found while you're at it. Originally, because I was a postmaster for a software house that was expanding globally, and I needed to be able to give people one email and then change the back-end email as often as I needed for testing, etc. So how do I tell Mac Mail to send as my Pobox email? And the only options I can find are in the main account emails. And he has a second question. It says, my wife is happy for me to start helping her clean up her 40,000 inbox items. Oh, what a slacker. I got at least that.
Oh, man.
No, I'm not quite that up there, but wow. So she's got a full
I'm going to
inbox.
need to breathe for a second, Pete. Sorry. Continue, please. Yeah.
So said one thing she would like me to do is an auto move incoming email to a folder, all good. But then she would like email or mails in that folder to auto delete after a set number of days. No idea how to do that. Do you have any suggestions? And I bet we do.
I would guess that we do. I will. So, Pobox or PO Box is the name I always kind of had in my head, is one of these mail forwarding sort of services. So if you want Apple Mail to be able to send as that via your Gmail sort of construct, the first thing you need to do is go into the web interface for Gmail, go to settings and accounts. It's actually settings and then accounts and import. That's just the name of it. And click the button that says add another email address. This will walk you through a process which essentially asks you for the email address and then the SMTP credentials to send through that email address. The end result of this is that in the Gmail web interface, you can choose another email address that's not a Gmail address as your from address and send as that. But they need to make sure it's yours first, and then also they need the credentials to send through it. Now, if P.O. Box, or whatever your provider is, if you're listening, has SMTP credentials for you to use, then you could put those in and everything's going to be fine. Lots of providers, forwarding only providers, are just that, forwarding only. They don't have outbound mail. They just take inbound mail, and they don't have SMTP credentials. So I'm going to teach you a trick that has worked for several decades with Gmail, and I don't think will ever break. At least I have my fingers crossed. What you do is you put in, when it asks you for the SMTP server, you put in smtp.gmail.com. And then when it asks you for the credentials, you put in the credentials of that Gmail account that you're adding this to. I know it seems like a circular thing. It is, but it's a hack that works and it works great. So once you get that in there, test it from the web interface, make sure you can choose the from address and send and all that stuff. At this point, you have a couple of options. Number one is you could use the Gmail app. Apple, it turns out, allows third-party apps in the store now. And so you can go find the Gmail app in the store and run that, and it will inherit all of the extra addresses that you have added to your, to your Gmail account. Apple Mail is capable of doing this. However, it does not inherit the addresses from a Gmail account. In fact, it doesn't even let you add a new from address to a Gmail account. So you have to create a new mail account on your Mac that is an IMAP mail account and log that into Gmail with imap.gmail.com. So just don't click the Google box. You got to go through and set it up as an IMAP account, because then it will act the same. But it allows, Apple Mail will allow you to then go into settings and accounts, and on your Gmail account or your new IMAP account that happens to point to Gmail, you get to add more from addresses. It will attempt to send those through your Gmail account, which is why you have to do the first step to get all that set up and allow that to happen. If you just randomly put an address in there and try to send it through Gmail that it doesn't already know about it's going to push it away. So that's that. But it is, that adding of the Gmail SMTP to itself is, the reason it dawned on me to try that is you used to just be able to choose, do you want to use external SMTP or should we just send it from the Google Mail servers? Are you okay with that? And then they stopped allowing that on new accounts, but they didn't change it on old ones. I'm like, well, can I just type in that data? And it's like, yep, no problem. All good.
Works.
It works.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of the question. Do we have anything to talk about that before we talk about auto-deleting?
I just want to clear something up. So I called it PO Box. You called it PO Box. But I have a reason. I lived in Louisiana for a lot of years, and I could go for a shrimp po' boy right now. So
I understand. I knew that's where that was coming from.
That's how I read it. It didn't even occur to me it was P.O. Box. It was
of course.
Po-Box.
It's po' box, just like a po' boy. Just change the last letter. Don't know why they changed the letter. Po' boy is just fine as it is.
Exactly.
Auto-deleting messages in Mail is an interesting little thing. It is doable with AppleScript, or at least ChatGPT tells me that it is. I believe it largely because I know that Mail is scriptable. I've done things like this in Mail with scripts, and in reading the script that ChatGPT sort of wrote for me, it fits. You might need to do a little tweaking to it as you test it, but I put a link to my ChatGPT session where I had it create this script for me, and you can copy the script right out of there, and it'll even kind of teach you how to, how to do these things. But I think that would be I would use AppleScript to delete the Mail. What about you guys?
I'll jump in. I'm sorry. I thought that anything in your outbox or in your trash bin automatically deleted after a certain amount of time anyway.
Trash, yes, but he's talking about moving his wife's new mail into just another box, not a trash box.
And then having that go.
Correct.
If not read in so many days. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I don't ever delete mail. I am an inbox 0 person, so my inbox always has nothing in it, but I move everything to folders and just let it build up.
Same. Yeah, I don't delete anything. I did recently. I don't know if I talked about this on the show. I would always, I only have a certain amount of storage on my Mail accounts because on the servers, and so I was archiving stuff on my Mac, on my one main Mac, and it dawned on me that this is only on one computer. Is it backed up? Yes, of course, but it's only on one computer, and that at times is a pain in the neck. Like when I'm traveling, if I want to look at something that's more than 2 years old, which seems to happen more often than you would think. Yeah. I have to VPN into my home network and screen share my one Mac that has that data. So I set up a mail server on my Synology, which I don't recommend ever running your own mail server again, but I've broken that rule. And I use it. I set it up a couple of years ago just to test, to see what that was like. Because somebody, I think one of you folks was asking about that. So I set it up, and it lives, and it has a domain that no one knows about. And I do get some mailing address, mailing lists into it so I can make sure it actually works. And it does. But it hit me. It was like, wait, I have an IMAP account on a server that I own and I get to pay for the storage on. I don't have to rent the storage from Google or Fastmail or anybody. And so I archive everything to that now, and it works great. So
Interesting.
So that's, I know. Yeah. When I had that thought, I think I had it while we were having a discussion on the show last year, and it was like, oh, wait a minute. There's an answer here. So I don't know.
I used to use Mail Steward.
Yeah.
For handling my archives. This is a Mac app that you can buy, and it basically runs an index on your inboxes, whatever mailboxes you want to point at it, and stores everything in a SQLite or MySQL database and makes it searchable, indexable, and also because it's a MySQLite database, it is a file that lives on your Mac, and I used to just back that up.
Yeah.
And so I would have that archive all my emails. I think Tim Verborten told me about this decades ago, and I had used it for years and years and years. I subsequently stopped. I'm not really sure why, but that was a great way to have a local backup of all of my email that I knew was safe no matter what.
Yeah, and you liked the user interface of it. I've been aware of Mail Stored for a long time, but I've just never made the leap.
It's very nerdy, but it doesn't require setting up your own mail server, which is even more nerdy.
Also nerdy, yes. Right, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I wonder, though, I know Mail Stored, the way, from what I remember of it, please correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of set up rules for what you want it to archive off, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that could solve Mark's wife's problem of wanting to archive off things that are of a certain age and at least get it out of her mailbox. And then, you could go in and delete it from Mail Stored if you want, later. Correct. But at least it gets it out of there.
Well, and what's nice about the Mail Stored, again, it stores it in a database, and then I think it has the ability to export back out to, Mbox file, and so you could restore stuff. It had a lot of really great features. It is not a simple interface to deal with. It's not too bad, but it is a little bit techy. I will be honest. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I actually thought of another way to do this, and I think it may be more difficult than or less efficient, but using Hazel. And I was thinking, well, you can export mail to a folder on your Mac and then let Hazel kill it after a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but that then allows you could back up that mail using any number of, Carbon Copy Cloner or Time Machine or any of those would grab those emails, and then the mail client isn't holding on to them. But that may be adding a level of complexity that's not worth it, or it may work out well.
I don't know. Every other solution we've mentioned is pretty nerdy, Pete. So there's
Mail's just a nerdy thing. Sorry.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
Oh, the database it's a goopy mess.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, if you've got questions, let us know. feedback@macgeekgab.com. Well, it's CES Coverage Week, and I want to take a second and thank one of our CES coverage sponsors, MacUpdater. MacUpdater is one of my favorite apps. I have it running on my Macs, all of the time, so that I know when there's new software updates, because there's nothing worse than going to launch an app that I only use maybe once every month or two and finding at that moment, the moment I launch it, that it's got an update. And I probably want the update, but I really don't want it in that moment. I already wanted it. Well, the good news, that's what MacUpdater does for me. It scans my apps, tells me when there's an update, and then really makes the process of updating so simple. I just select the apps that I want to update, or I can just tell it to quick select the ones that it thinks I should select, and it's almost always right. And then I tell it, go, and it goes and installs everything and updates it. I can see release notes in there, and it maintains backup copies of a lot of the apps so that if something with an update doesn't go so well, I've got the backup there. It's amazing. You got to go check this out, and you can go to corecode.io/MGG to test it all out. Go there, corecode.io/MGG, and our thanks to the folks at Corecode who make MacUpdater for sponsoring our CES coverage this week. All right.
Well,
go
ahead.
We're going to jump to Dan here, Pete.
I knew that.
That's okay. Dan says, I currently have 3 UPSs, one on my Mac, one my TiVo, and my cable box, which is my modem and router. No idea why, but we frequently get quick dips in power, which would cause these devices to restart. Yep, it happens. Says, I've had no problems since I put the UPS in. Great, it's doing its job. My issue is that I buy replacement batteries on Amazon for about $37 and they only last about 2 years. I'm wondering if it's better to keep buying the batteries or if I should try another UPS.
Yep.
Thoughts on this, Adam?
Great question. Well, first I have to throw this out and say, do as I say, not as I do. Because I know that I should have UPSs on everything, and I do not have UPSs. I have one UPS. It was provided by my company for my work computer. So it does sit here, and when my Mac's connected to it, it's all connected to everything. So it's kind of part of my setup now, but it was provided by work. And I actually had this exact situation happen where it was an old UPS when I got it, and then when we went remote and I ended up moving out here, the battery died. Right? I don't know how old that battery was.
Sure, it happens. Yeah.
And so I just requested a new UPS from my company, and they happily sent me one, which is great. So they sent me a brand new one. And it was only when I was taking the other one down that I realized, oh, these things, the batteries, you can just swap them out really easy. There's a little door and battery plops in there. And it's like, I wonder why they didn't just give me a new battery. Probably cheaper. But I also did some research at that time too. And so I think, just like he mentioned, the big dilemma I had with batteries in general, this is batteries for anything, right? Is you can find the really, really cheap ones, right? That don't come from the manufacturer. They're not the OEM one. They're coming out of some factory out of China somewhere. And it seems like a really, really good deal, but I don't know the quality. I don't know, these sorts of things. And it's another reason why, people complain about Apple and the cost of their battery replacements and stuff like that. There is a difference in batteries. There's huge differences in batteries. And how would you know what brand is good, what brand isn't? And if you go with the manufacturer's battery, a lot of times it might end up being as much or very close to just a brand new UPS. So I would tend to probably fall on the line of have the UPS, once the battery dies, get a new one. It's going to have newer features. It's going to have newer technology. If the price isn't that different than replacing the battery. So I think for me, it would come down to how much is that replacement battery from the OEM versus just buying a new UPS?
That is the question I ask every time, and my rule of thumb is if the cost of the battery is more than 50% of the replacement cost of the UPS, I replace the UPS. And the reason for that is I know that it's possible for UPSs to for their surge protecting capabilities to diminish over time. And it's impossible, at least for me at home, to be able to tell whether that has happened yet. Like they say that, they're good for X number of surges, after which point they might start to not be quite as great about, because they are taking sometimes massive hits from like lightning and those sorts of things. Like that's their job. And so like I said, I use the 50% rule. I probably wind up replacing the battery once on each UPS. And then it seems like the replacement battery price goes up as the UPS gets older, probably supply demand, that whole thing. So yeah, I follow the same rule, and I have been burned by that battery's, super inexpensive, or as I like to say, cheap and worth it. So
yeah, right.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. My observation about UPSs is people don't have them that should have them. And the reason is they're not sexy. You spend a lot of money for something that doesn't really do much for you. It's doing a lot for you, but just, it isn't a configurable router. It isn't a cool new phone. It isn't a powerful laptop. It's a piece of gear that sits there and protects you, but it's just not exciting.
No, it's not. You plug it in and forget about it. Yeah.
And so if you don't have one, I highly recommend just for the surge protection alone on the darn things, but to prevent the brownout issues.
Yeah, it's the brownouts for me. Yeah.
It's the backup. It's the backup thing, right? I'm a huge backup person, and I'm only a huge backup person now because I had an incident where we lost a lot of valuable data. And from that point forward, I learned my lesson. So sometimes you just have to be taught the hard lesson, and that might be the case with a UPS. Knock on wood.
Yep.
Right.
I just need to do it. I just need to bite the bullet, and I just haven't wanted to spend the time or deal with it, and I just haven't done it. And again, don't be like me. I know it's wrong. I know the risk I'm taking, and I'm taking it knowingly. So hear that. Like, if you want to be like me and take the risk knowingly, I'm going to get burned one day, and then I'm going to be really sad, and then I will have a UPS on everything.
Yeah. I learned the lesson from my clients when I was in Austin because I watched their computers blow up. Like, we would have a lightning storm one night and our voicemail would be full the next morning because we ran a computer, on-site computer repair shop called Computer Nerds. So I didn't have to learn that lesson the hard way. I have unfortunately learned that lesson the hard way since then, but like, I've had UPSs. Now, though, I put them on every piece of electronic gear that I have. And there's one, again, not a sexy benefit. It's the long-term benefit. But there's one thing that I've noticed, and that's that my electronics last longer than most people's comparable electronics do. TVs, like audio gear that I have, all of that stuff. And one of the features that most UPSs have, just as a matter of course, is power conditioning. Like, they are keeping the voltage steady. That, if there's a dip in the circuit, the battery is there to add it back in to compensate. And of course, it limits it on the top end too. With electronics getting less and less expensive, more and more bulk manufacturing, those transformers in the power supplies for them are a point of cost savings for many manufacturers, and they're cheap. And so babying those transformers, it turns out, has been a good thing for me in general. Now, do I have a control group where I can specifically say I get an extra 5 years? No, but it sure seems like that. So I'm going to knock on some wood.
Sense.
1 second.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, that literally makes sense, right? You're protecting the circuitry in your devices from abuse and doing it constantly. So it follows.
It's
the
consistent.
Logic follows.
The logic follows. Yeah, even if I might be wrong. That's right.
Anecdotally, you're right, Dave.
I feel right, Pete, and I think when one is prolifically lost, feeling unlost is the most important thing.
Absolutely,
I think so. You want to take us to Ron, Adam?
Yeah, Ron says he has a weirdo, which is interesting, but he is using BusyCal and Calendar and getting an odd message lately. It tells him your event couldn't be refreshed. There's insufficient storage space for a specific meeting. I don't want to out him on his meeting in a specific, it looks like, calendar and in iCloud. So it's this little dialogue that pops up, and he says he sees it in BusyCal, and it's when he's trying to put a new event in, and he's done some Googling, looked around, done all the usual stuff of updating and making sure he's got adequate local storage. He's got 2 terabytes in his iCloud with plenty of extra memory on his computer, and is just baffled. Calendar and iCloud.com isn't any help, and the iCloud app is just showing these warnings. So he wants to know about that. And then he also asks about bulk deleting old events. He says, I can't find a way to accomplish this. I want to, again, I think the idea is something's going on with this storage, at least according to this dialogue. And how do we clear this up?
Interesting. See, we've got a theme. We want to delete old mail. We want to delete old calendar events. I realize that's to deal with the symptom, not necessarily the problem of this one. But to answer that question, I would do it the same way. I would Apple script calendar to delete old events, and you can absolutely do that. And in fact, I went to ChatGPT and had it mock up an Apple script that certainly looks like it would work. And I've linked that from the show notes for the second part of the question. So if you want to bulk delete old events, Apple script calendar is, Apple's calendar app is scriptable, and you can do that. This error message that you read, he says he's getting the same thing in both BusyCal and Calendar. The screenshot he sent us is from, Apple's calendar. Yeah. And it's, this thing about insufficient storage space tells me that this is more about an issue on his Mac locally than it is on iCloud. And in fact, he confirmed that he's not running out of storage space in iCloud. Calendar events don't generally take up a lot of storage space. They're usually just text. You can add lots of text to them. You can also add images to calendar events. I don't know if you knew that, but you can. And so that sometimes will get you there. But I would do the obvious thing and look and just make sure that your Mac isn't running close to its storage limits. I feel like you would see other warning signs of this other than your calendar telling you. I don't have 4 extra bytes. We're full. When an app thinks it can't write to something, the error message is sometimes based upon an assumption that the developer or developers made. And so when I see this, there is insufficient storage space, think, okay, well, is it truly looking at the amount of storage space and calculating that there isn't enough to do this? Or is it trying to write to it and getting an error that says, I can't write to this file, and it's assuming that because it's an open calendar, the only reason you could not write to that file is if there's not room to write to it. But there might be other reasons you might not be able to write to that file, like permissions issues, or, is the file corrupt? So that's I would first check to make sure that you aren't out of storage space. And then I would start looking at permissions. And one of the easiest things to do to sort of test all of these at once would be to export the events in that calendar to, in calendar, you can just export them to a file and then import them into a new calendar on iCloud, so that you've essentially duplicated your calendar, but you've created a brand new file for that calendar. Does it all just work there? If so, okay, we had some corruption, whatever, just delete the now duplicate / original calendar and you're good to go. I don't know. That's where my brain goes in the,
where
a lot of times
go and fix those permissions. Would that be a path worth trying?
It would. Yeah, fair. So I believe that they are in home library calendars is where that stuff is stored. And I feel confident saying that. I'm looking on this Mac in the studio in home library calendars. I never use the Apple Calendar app. I only use BusyCal. However, I do sync with my iCloud calendar, and I know that my Mac sort of keeps that up to date regardless. If I happen to launch calendar, all my stuff's there. And I can see that 6 minutes ago, there were 8 files in my home library calendars folder that were updated. So I feel like this might be the right place to look. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to ask, and you said, right, how much does a given event take up? Deleting old events, I wouldn't do it because it's a few bytes at most on most events. And I've, at least for me, I found it necessary. For instance, when I have to do my medical for the FAA, I have to tell them when I went to visit a given doctor, and I can always look back and see over the years when a given doctor's appointment was. And so I find it a great historical record to go, oh yeah, I was at this place on that date.
I mean, we just said, I just, admitted that I never delete mail either, but, I've never deleted a calendar event. I can go all the way back to 1993 when I first started using Now Up to Date. Because that was my first digital calendar. Wow. Yeah. I know, I'm crazy though. Like, so it,
where were you on July 12th, 1993, Dave?
wait, say, yeah. Adam, what were you saying?
I said, I don't delete anything in calendar either. I've always just let it do whatever it does and don't worry.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah. It's not the thing that's going to eat up all your storage on iCloud, on your Mac, on any of that. If you get to that point, it's probably time to get more storage. Yeah. No, I mean, I realize, we're making some assumptions here based on our own experiences, but I'd be curious if somebody's got like, oh no, I have to delete calendar events because, I'd be curious, because I'm just interested in those kinds of things. All right. As you know, it is CES week, and I want to take a minute to thank Kolide, one of our CES sponsors, for our coverage here. Look, when you go through airport security, like we did to get to Vegas, there's one line where the TSA agent checks your ID and another line where a machine scans your bag, right? The same thing happens in enterprise security, but instead of passengers and luggage, it's end users and their devices. These days, most companies are pretty good at the first part of the equation where they check user identity, but user devices can roll right through authentication without getting inspected at all. In fact, 47% of companies allow unmanaged, untrusted devices to access their data. That means an employee can log in from a laptop that has its firewall turned off and hasn't been updated in 6 months. Or worse, that laptop might belong to a bad actor using employee credentials. Kolide finally solves the device trust problem. Kolide ensures that no device can log into your Okta protected apps unless it passes your security checks. Plus, you can use Kolide on devices without MDM, like your Linux fleet, contractor devices, and every BYOD phone and laptop in your company. You got to check this out. Visit kolide.com/MGG to watch a demo and see how it all works. Again, that's KOLIDE.com/MGG. And our thanks to Kolide for sponsoring all our CES coverage this week. All right, let's do some cool stuff found before we come back from CES with a bunch of cool stuff found. Yep. In fact, I think we're probably going to release a couple of shorter episodes from our from CES. Pete, I called them because last year we had this great suite where John was out there with us actually last year, and we had this great suite where we had our rooms to sleep in, but we had a living room where we could congregate and like do work together.
And I have been at pool.
Well, that's the thing. I had been in a suite like this before. There, it's called the Hospitality Suite. It's fantastic. Here's the weird part. It's the same price for this Hospitality Suite with 2 bedrooms and a living room that it is to buy 2 king bed rooms. And so it's like, well, that's like easy math to me. I'll take the living room. Yeah, of course. Well, I'd always had like a regular table with chairs. This time, or last year, we got there and walked in the room, and it was quite impressive to see there was a pool table in the middle of our room. So sure, we enjoyed some tequila one night and played some pool, but it meant we didn't have a table to like record or do work at. This year, I sent our friends at the Mirage a request that they give us a table with chairs instead of a table with balls. Yes. So, yep. Yep.
Exactly. And for what it's worth, folks, know that tequila did not improve our pool game.
No, that is correct. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So hopefully we will be releasing, the plan is to release a couple of episodes, mini episodes with things that kind of we find. If you remember back in the pre-sale days when we had TMO, we would do a takeover of daily observations 1 or 2 days of CES and use that as our vehicle to share our like cool stuff found of the day. We don't have that anymore. A, because I'm no longer involved in the Mac Observer, and B, because that show no longer exists, which is a shame. I think that was a fantastic show. I was really proud of what we created there. But anyway, not my decision to make, and it's fine. But we can still do it, and we just release it to this feed. Like it's all good. Nothing really changed. Right? Exactly.
I think we'll have some cool stuff.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. For now, we have Matt, who shares that there was actually somebody in our Discord that asked, I'm looking for a place to jot down information. I usually default to paper and pen, but I'm wondering if there is a Scratchpad type app that I can use so that I can jot down notes on my computer. And Matt in our Discord answered this saying, well, without knowing more specifics, I can recommend the Mac app Unclutter at unclutterapp.com. It's mostly invisible until you need it. When you do, you just swipe down using your mouse or your trackpad, and a little shelf drops into view from the top of your screen, ready to take your text-based notes. It's very straightforward, And additional features include clipboard history and files, a shelf, like the files that you can just pull down and get to, like things that you might actually put on your desktop, but you want to get to quickly, or you want to drag into an app, you drag it to the shelf. It doesn't actually move it anywhere, and then you can drag it into a mail message. I need to revisit Unclutter. I'd forgotten about that feature of this app.
That looks cool.
Yeah, I forgot about this. Yeah. Yep.
And the price is $20.
Okay, $20.
So,
yeah. Huh. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, a way to keep your desktop clean and yet still have it all in one place.
And still have it all where you need it. Yeah, very cool. All right. Yeah, thank you for that, Matt. I'm sure we've talked about Unclutter on the show before, but I forgot about it. So I know whatever. Yeah. The next little app in Cool Stuff Found comes from Pharmacist Foster. So we've got Pilot Pete and we got Pharmacist Foster, and I like the wordplay there.
The alliteration there.
Yeah.
He doesn't spell it with an F though.
That's the funny part, right? It's called Shortcut Detective, and he uses it to suss out keyboard shortcuts. He found it when he was trying to use a keyboard shortcut that he knew existed in an app, and it didn't work. He could go to the menu and choose the option, and that would work, and it even showed the little shortcut next to it, but it wouldn't work. Shortcut Detective, which is from Irradiated Software, and I believe is free, Yeah. Yep. Figures out which app is seeing and intercepting, if you will, any given keyboard shortcut. And he was able to narrow it down to, some third-party app that he had installed years ago that was intercepting that one keyboard shortcut. So he just went in and changed it. But Shortcut Detective allows you to know, and that's pretty cool. So that's why it's part of Cool Stuff Found. Yeah. Have you ever used Shortcut Detective, Adam?
Sorry, I'm trying to stay muted because it is the first Friday of the month. And they are testing the tornado sirens. I don't know if people are hearing that or not.
I hear that. Oh,
because it's very close to my house. So, no, I've never used this app, but it sounds super handy because I've run into this problem where you have a conflict with some shortcut that you're used to using. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. What were you going to say, Pete? Sorry.
It looks like it also has the ability to block a given global keyboard shortcut. Is that what I'm reading on there in the more control? Check out short stop, which can block global hotkeys.
Yes, there's all kinds of great little apps on the Irradiated Software site. So go check them out. Yeah. Yes, short stop can do that. And that's not from them, I don't think. I think that's from a different company.
Okay.
Called Shortstop. Yeah. But we'll put that in the show notes too. Why not?
There you go.
That's what we do. Huh.
Interesting.
Shortstop. All right. Cool. I love all these, like these single purpose apps they can be so handy. So, yep. Dom has our next Cool Stuff Found, and it is related to our discussion about smart home and specifically garage doors that we had last week. He says, one thing worth considering to solve your garage door opener, your smart garage door opener problems, or smart that became dumb garage door opener problems, is by using a SwitchBot bot. To use any brand of garage door opener with HomeKit, whether it's smart or not, all you need is a garage door that has a remote control, which is likely all of them. The SwitchBot bot can be used to physically activate the appropriate remote button via HomeKit or Siri with no extra software, apps, Homebridge, or anything else. It doesn't care about brands, makes, or models. No, that's true. And if you change your garage door opener, then nothing needs to change in your HomeKit setup. You just put the little SwitchBot bot on it. This is a push button bot, is essentially what this thing does. I joked a couple of weeks ago about how I think I was either in pre-show, maybe in pre-show or during the show, that my son was home for like an extended period over, maybe it was Thanksgiving. And there was one day he works and lives about 2 hours from here. And he said, yeah, I think on Monday I'm going to have to do a round trip to work because there's this one button that needs to be pushed to reset this device that they write the software for. And I'm like, this feels like something that could be scripted. Sure enough, like the switch, I'm going to send him this and say, look, man, for $30, you could have saved yourself a round trip. Probably less to buy one of these than the fuel that it cost him to go back and forth. But yeah. So
that's awesome. And then this was cool. That's a cool piece of gear. I mean, it's for those not watching, looking on the screen, that little button comes up and pushes the button.
Pushes whatever you want.
Pushes the button.
And it sticks on. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to say, it reminds me of what are those things called? The useless device?
Yes.
That people make where, and you could probably use this to make one of those. It's a box, right? And it has a switch on it, and you flip the switch, and then another bot comes out and then flips the switch the other way, right?
Yes.
The useless machine.
But
this one isn't useless.
No, that's right. That's right. We will put a link to the useless machine. Yeah, but this could be the ingredients in creating a useless machine. That's right.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Push the buttons back.
You could do something within it and a Raspberry Pi or a Arduino or something in this thing probably, and create a wireless useless machine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love it. That's great. and it looks like it can stick onto things on their website. They have it on like a light switch, but they've also got it on your coffee machine. Like, so it's versatile. I don't even know that you would need a remote control for your garage if I was going to use one of these things. And let's be very clear. I may be getting one of these things to use for my garage doors. This might be the simplest solution that anybody's come up with, is I would just stick it on the opener, like on the wall in the garage, the hardwired opener in the garage. It seems like it would work, at least for the ones I have. It seems like it would work for that.
Then geofence it to activate when you get in the area and open your door.
Yeah, I don't do that. I didn't do the geofence. We have 3 garage doors here. So if I'm in my wife's car, I don't need it opening the garage door for my car just because I'm like, and I did think about, I could do a geofence thing that only happens if I'm connected to CarPlay and I approach the neighborhood. Like there's probably a world.
You'd have to get it pretty granular, else it briefly loses signal, and then finds you at home and it opens your garage door.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Oops.
Yeah.
So.
Yepper.
But then, and somebody wrote in, and I can't find it now, but told us that all these garage door openers are owned by the same parent company.
It's all Chamberlain. Yeah.
All the various brands.
Yeah. It's like, I'm really upset with them. I hope they're at CES. I don't generally go to CES to like meet with vendors and get tech support. I go to let them talk, right? Like learn about things. But if I see the Chamberlain people, I'm going to ask them why
We're going to have a chat.
Why they broke. I want to know, why did they reduce the functionality of their devices? Like, I just don't understand how I'm supposed to use this. I will ask them this. If I see them this week, I'll ask them. If I don't see them, I will ask them via other channels, because I'm curious as to what their intentions are. Like, why can I not use this with my smart home anymore?
I bet they're going to say security, but
okay.
Hey, it's a BS excuse, and they're going to stick with it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but like, if I can't use it with my smart home, what's the point of having a smart garage door opener?
Yeah, fair enough.
Why you break it? Like, I don't know. Yeah, why you got to be like that?
Because we could.
Yeah, exactly. One last one is for me. I mentioned in last week's episode that I was taking my liberating my audiobooks and giving them their freedom so that I could put them wherever I wanted. And I had an Audible book, and I wanted to put it in my Apple Books on my phone so that I could, instead of using the Audible app, I was using the Apple app. So I put it in Books on my Mac and expected it to sync via iCloud. And I am still expecting it to sync via iCloud, in that I'm waiting. But I'm really, the expectation is lessened.
Falling off rapidly?
Yeah, because that's not how it works, evidently. I can put a PDF in books and it syncs to all my devices, but audiobooks, not so much. So in theory, I could do it with a wired, or if I had previously set it up, a wireless connection to my Mac via the Finder, aka the old iTunes functionality that syncs, over a wire or wirelessly. And I tried to do that, and it never started syncing the book. Like it showed me the book, and I could select it and say, yes, please put that over there on that phone that you see. But it I don't know, whatever was going on, it never did. And so I'm like, gosh, what's going on? So I did some Googling and was reminded of one of my apps that I used a long time ago, which was WALTR Pro, which is just built to take media and put it on your phone, even media that Apple says you can't do. Of course, with this one, Apple says I could do it. It just didn't do it. Not only did this do it, it would do all kinds of other media. I'm thinking iMazing may have let me do some version of this too, but WALTR Pro certainly did. So, yeah. Have you ever tried this, Adam, with iMazing?
Maybe a long time ago. It does have some functions and features for putting them onto, putting files onto your device. But I think what's great about WALTR Pro is it kind of automates everything, right? And you can set up encoding settings, and you can say, for this type of file, this is how I want it going over there, and on the fly encode it, and it just takes care of everything. And it's like drag and drop, simple. Like,
yes. Yeah, it was,
forget it.
I was done. Like once I saw, it was like a YouTube video that I think the title of it was "Use WALTR Pro to transfer audiobooks to your iPhone." It was like, right, of course. Like I didn't even need to watch the video. It's like, WALTR Pro. And I had simply had fallen off my radar for years. I'm glad it still exists. And it from the moment I saw that video title to being finished with the project was, probably 4 minutes, and that included downloading WALTR Pro. So, yeah, it's good stuff. It is good stuff. Either of you guys got anything else to add, or shall we say that we're done?
If we can circle back to one thing on the quick note thing.
Yeah.
When you guys were going through that, it reminded me about, Notes has a quick note feature, right? And it's on your iOS device. If you're using a pencil, you can use a gesture where you swipe up from the corner to write a quick note. You can enable that on your Mac with hot corners. So if you go into your system settings, go into desktop and dock, and then go down to the bottom and click on hot corners, one of the hot corner options is something called quick note. And once you set that up, when you go to that corner, a little like white thing will peek out from the corner. You click on that and it pops open a sheet to make a note and notes very quickly.
Oh, I never, obviously Apple thought about this because otherwise the option wouldn't be there in hot corners, but I never even thought to look there. Oh, that's brilliant. I love it.
So mine's turned on. Somehow I've hidden it because it says it's there for the bottom right corner for quick note. But man, I'm not getting it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Can I ask if you have multiple screens on your Mac, Pete? Because if you do, you have to go to the bottom right corner of the virtual screen. Yep.
Yeah. There you go. See? That's why I come here for my tech support, folks.
That's one of those tough things to troubleshoot because I can't see your setup. But I have been there before. I have done exactly that. And it's like, why doesn't it? Oh, it's over there.
Yeah.
Right.
Where'd my mouse go?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I still have my mouse. It was probably a year ago. Yeah. We talked about on the show how you can use accessibility, Adam, to change the size of your mouse, which most of us sort of have experienced, but also the color of your mouse cursor. And mine is now like hot purple, and I can see it anywhere it is on the screen. It's awesome. Yes.
Mine's larger, and I have it outlined in red. It's black, but I have it outlined in red.
Yeah, there you go.
Thing,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
I just always use the wiggle trick.
The wiggle trick works for sure. Yeah. And then, but when I do that now, I get a big hot purple mouse. So.
That's right.
Yepper.
Oh, man.
Yepper. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody.
Indeed.
Time flies when you're having fun, man. We're at 124, which is long for us, and I feel like we could just go longer, but we have things to do, and you have things to do, and we're respectful of your time as well as our own. So we kind of treat you like we treat ourselves, which is, I feel like the best thing any of us can do is that. Wasn't there the golden rule about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Thanks to CashFly for providing all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. Thanks to all of our CES sponsors, of course, Kolide, CCC Backup, MacUpdater. Follow us on our various socials. We put all of them in our show notes, so you can go there and just click, and follow us and enjoy whatever that might be. I feel like, we recorded this episode and before we travel with this assumption that we're going to be able to travel, and I the superstitious person in me says that we're dancing very close to the edge of taunting the universe. So, Pete, let us make sure that we make it to Vegas and don't get caught.
Mail.app.